So you also mentioned a moment ago around friction as a point to think about. And obviously a big point of friction and making something frictionless is a gate. And whether that's a gate to sign up to create an account to view the content, or a gate to require you to give them money, or a gate in order to show you the content, but after 14 days, then you have to pay the money. So any insights you can share with people around gating strategies, what you've seen, where it's working well, where it's not working well. You've mentioned the FT and a few others, but obviously they're very large companies with big brands that can just convince people that they should part with their money because they have that brand and legacy behind them. But certainly for niche publishers or smaller news companies, how do they approach this?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, it's an evergreen debate, this one, isn't it? I think we see kind of every version of this across our portfolio. So we have everything from apps where you open the app and you literally cannot do anything at all. You can't even see anything without either registering or logging in. And they're not asking for money at that point. They just want an email address or for you to identify yourself. All the way to apps where everything is completely free, and then everything in between. I think the one that tends to be favored and that we believe in the most is the one where when you go into the app, you basically you see everything. You at least see what you could potentially consume. You see all of the sections. Even in the sections, you see all of the content. I think that's the number one, because that's not a given, by the way, but I would say that's really important, because people need to know what they have, but they also need to know what they don't have. We then see a couple of different strategies around where you apply the gate or the padlock or whatever you want to call it. I think that there's the one strategy, which is some content is always paid and some content is always free. And that's kind of at the editorial level. You literally mark this as a free story or video, whatever, this is paid. So there's that strategy, which we see a lot of. And then obviously the metering strategy as well, where effectively even paid content is accessible freely for either a certain amount of time or a certain number of reads. That's also very popular. We also see tiered subscription strategies where some content is free for everyone, some content is only available to, let's say, a level 1 subscription, and some content is only available to a level 2 subscription. So that's fairly sophisticated. The independent do that. As to what's best, it's very hard to say, because I think it's so particular to the type of content and the type of brand and the type of reader. The other question to throw in there, which I think is really pertinent right now, is the external link entitlement. And without getting too arcane, because it is a little bit complicated, but it's at its most simple level. In the olden days, Apple would only allow you. They were very restrictive on how you sold subscriptions in their apps. You could either say, and this is assuming you have a subscription product, by the way. You could either say, hey, log in if you're an existing subscriber, or buy a subscription through Apple. You couldn't say, or C, go to our website and buy a subscription. They wouldn't approve your app if it did that. It was either if you as a brand had already sold a subscription, yes, they can come in and log in and they can authenticate against your own subs platform. If they don't have a previous relationship with you, the only way they can buy a subscription is if you do it through our own store. So that was the status quo until about 2 years ago, and then they implemented, because they had to, this external link entitlement, which allows you to say, you can either log in as a subscriber or come and buy a subscription from our website. If you do that, and it's getting complicated now, but the basic rule is if you do that, you then can't offer in-app subscriptions. So then they're basically saying, all right, we're going to let you get around our subs pay, our old rules, but we're not going to let you have subscriptions through the App Store anymore. So we're going to take something away. And that's a really tough decision for publishers, because going back to your friction point, they make it really nasty, right? So if you turn on this external link entitlement as a publisher, this is the user journey. Hey, if you're a subscriber, come and log in here. If not, there's this little URL. You actually have to write out the URL. You can't have a nice button that says register. It's a URL. You have to tap on the URL. When you tap on the URL, you get a big modal which says, basically, warning, you are now leaving Apple's kind of safe zone. You're going to go to a website. Someone's going to try and sell something to you. Are you sure you want to do this? And then you hit OK. You open up a web browser, and you've got to take them through a whole journey to get their subscription. That's nasty, right? So they've basically given you an option, but they've made it really, really nasty versus the click one button to subscribe and then, whatever, authenticate yourself through your Apple ID and you're done. So that's a kind of moving feast right now. Where that's going to end up, I don't know. So we've got a few publishers who are using that external link entitlement. It's good for B2B, right? Because you're talking about high value subscriptions where it's actually if it's a couple of grand a year, it's probably worth going through your own user journey, and it's not like they're gonna drop off. But for a news media or consumer magazine publisher, that's a tricky journey to try and force people through.